In the small town of Evergreen Hollow, nestled deep in the heart of the snow-covered mountains, Christmas was always a time of joy and celebration. However, this particular Christmas Eve brought with it an eerie sense of foreboding. The townspeople gathered in the quaint little church for the annual Christmas Eve service, exchanging warm smiles and festive greetings. The flickering candlelight created dancing shadows on the walls as the choir sang carols, filling the air with a sense of peace. As the clock struck midnight, signaling the arrival of Christmas Day, a sudden chill swept through the church. The door creaked open slowly, and a gust of icy wind extinguished the candles. The congregation fell silent, exchanging uneasy glances. A mysterious figure entered, draped in a tattered, blood-stained cloak. The townspeople squinted through the dim light, trying to make out the stranger's face, but it remained hidden in the shadows. The figure approached the pulpit and began to speak, their voice a haunting whisper that echoed through the church. They spoke of an ancient curse that had befallen Evergreen Hollow, a curse tied to the very essence of Christmas. According to the ominous stranger, the town's prosperity came at a dark cost. As the tale unfolded, the townspeople learned of a vengeful spirit named Krampus who had been awakened by their excessive merriment. Krampus, a horned creature with a long, twisted tongue and chains that rattled ominously, emerged from the depths of the mountains to punish those who had forgotten the true meaning of Christmas. The figure warned the townspeople that Krampus would roam the streets that very night, seeking out the naughty and dragging them away to a realm of eternal darkness. Panic spread through the congregation as they realized the gravity of the situation. The church bell rang in the distance, and the figure vanished into thin air. The townspeople, now filled with fear, rushed to their homes, locking doors and windows, hoping to escape the clutches of the malevolent Krampus. As the night wore on, the wind howled outside, and the sound of chains echoed through the empty streets. Each villager, no matter how kind or generous, felt a shiver down their spine as they wondered if they had unknowingly fallen onto Krampus's list. The next morning, the town awoke to an eerie silence. The once bustling streets were now deserted, and the only traces of the previous night's terror were the echoes of distant chains and the chilling wind. Evergreen Hollow became a ghost town, frozen in time, as the legend of Krampus continued to haunt the memories of those who had once celebrated Christmas with joy. The townspeople who remained lived with the knowledge that, in the depths of winter, Krampus might return to remind them of the consequences of forgetting the true spirit of Christmas. Story 2. In the quaint village of Pinevale, nestled deep within a dense forest, the Christmas season was a time of enchantment and wonder. The villagers decorated their homes with twinkling lights, adorned the streets with festive ornaments, and gathered in the town square for the annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony. However, this particular year would be different, as an ancient curse that had long slumbered beneath the village was about to awaken. Legend spoke of an old manor at the edge of Pinevale, hidden among the ancient trees. The manor, once home to a mysterious family, was said to be cursed by a malevolent spirit. As the clock struck midnight on Christmas Eve, the villagers began to hear whispers in the wind, tales of an otherworldly presence that would emerge to cast a shadow over their festive celebrations. The story began many generations ago, when the owner of the manor, a man named Ezekiel Blackwood, delved into forbidden rituals in a desperate attempt to bring back his deceased wife. However, his dark experiments attracted the attention of a vengeful spirit, cursed to wander the earth until the balance between life and death was restored. As the villagers reveled in the warmth of their homes, a bitter cold settled over Pinevale. Unbeknownst to them, the curse was stirring beneath the manor, and the spirit, known as the Yule Wraith, began to awaken. The Christmas tree lights flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows on the walls of the villagers' homes. Outside, the wind howled like a mournful dirge as the Yule Wraith emerged from the depths of the manor. It was a ghastly figure, cloaked in tattered remnants of what once might have been festive garb, its eyes glowing with an unnatural, malevolent light. As the Yule Wraith traversed the village, a sense of dread gripped Pinevale. Those who crossed its path felt an icy chill in their bones, and the once joyous carolers fell silent as the haunting presence enveloped the town. The Yule Wraith, driven by a thirst for retribution, sought out those who had forgotten the true meaning of Christmas. It wandered through the village, its ethereal form slipping through walls and windows, leaving only a trail of frost and despair in its wake. The townspeople, now aware of the ancient curse, huddled together in fear. Each passing moment brought the Yule wraith closer to its victims, and the once celebratory atmosphere of Pinevale was replaced with a palpable sense of terror. The village priest, Father Matthias, delved into ancient texts, seeking a way to banish the malevolent spirit. Through his research, he uncovered a ritual that could potentially appease the Yule wraith and restore balance to the cursed land. However, the ritual required a sacrifice, one that would test the strength of Pinevale's unity. As the Yule wraith closed in on its unsuspecting victims, Father Matthias rallied the villagers to perform the ancient ritual. The town square became a stage for an otherworldly dance, as the villagers chanted incantations and held hands in a desperate bid to appease the vengeful spirit. The air crackled with supernatural energy, and a blinding light enveloped the village. The Yule wraith let out a guttural cry, its form contorting as it struggled against the forces of the ritual. In a burst of ethereal flames, the spirit dissipated, leaving behind a heavy silence that hung over Pinevale. As the first light of Christmas Day broke on the horizon, the villagers cautiously emerged from their homes, still trembling from the night's ordeal. The curse had been lifted, but the memory of the Yule wraith lingered in the collective consciousness of Pinevale. In the years that followed, the village changed. The once exuberant Christmas celebrations became more somber, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the supernatural. The manor at the edge of Pinevale, now abandoned, stood as a silent testament to the price of tampering with forces beyond human understanding. And so, each Christmas Eve, the villagers lit a candle in the town square, a solemn tradition to remember the night when the Yule wraith had visited Pinevale. As the flame flickered in the cold night air, the villagers couldn't help but wonder if, somewhere in the shadows, the vengeful spirit still lingered, waiting for the next opportunity to remind the world of the consequences of forgetting the true spirit of Christmas. Story 3. Deep in the heart of the Blackwood Forest, there stood an old mansion, long abandoned and shrouded in mystery. The townsfolk of Winterhaven, a small village nestled at the forest's edge, had always avoided the mansion, believing it to be cursed. Legend told of a family that had once dwelled within its walls, a family whose dark deeds had cast a shadow over Winterhaven for generations. As the winter winds howled through the barren branches of the surrounding trees, Winterhaven prepared for its annual Christmas celebration. The townspeople adorned the village square with colorful lights, and the scent of evergreen filled the air. However, this year, a group of curious teenagers decided to break the taboo and venture into the old mansion on Christmas Eve. The group, led by Jake, a daring and skeptical young man, approached the mansion under the cover of night. The moon cast an eerie glow on the dilapidated structure as they crossed the creaking threshold. The air inside was frigid, and the silence seemed to amplify their every footstep. As the teens explored the mansion's decaying rooms, they stumbled upon an ancient library filled with dusty tomes and weathered manuscripts. Among the books, they found a peculiar leather-bound volume detailing the mansion's grim history. It spoke of the Morgensterns, a family that had once practiced dark arts in their pursuit of immortality. According to the book, on one fateful Christmas Eve, the Morgensterns performed a forbidden ritual to attain eternal life. However, the ritual went awry, unleashing a malevolent force that consumed the family and cursed the mansion. The last entry in the journal ominously warned that the curse would awaken every century, seeking retribution for disturbing the family's eternal rest. Unnerved but intrigued, the teenagers continued their exploration, unaware that they had awakened the dormant curse. The temperature dropped even further, and a ghostly mist crept through the mansion's corridors. Shadows danced on the walls, taking on sinister shapes. As the clock struck midnight, a haunting melody echoed through the mansion. The group followed the ethereal sound to the grand ballroom, where an otherworldly figure appeared. It was the spirit of Isabella Morgenstern, the youngest member of the ill-fated family, trapped between worlds. Isabella's ghostly form warned the intruders of the curse they had unleashed. The malevolent force, fueled by the family's tormented souls, hungered for the warmth of the living to break free from its spectral prison. The teens were now marked as its prey. Panicked, the group raced through the mansion, pursued by unseen forces. The air grew thick with despair as the curse manifested itself, manipulating the very fabric of reality within the mansion. Doors slammed shut, trapping them in endless corridors that twisted and contorted, disorienting the intruders. One by one, the teenagers succumbed to the curse's relentless pursuit. Their screams echoed through the mansion as they vanished into the shadows. Desperation gripped those who remained, their resolve weakening with each passing moment. Jake, the last survivor, found himself in the mansion's chapel. The ghostly presence of Isabella Morgenstern appeared before him, her eyes filled with sorrow. She revealed that the only way to appease the curse was to willingly become a vessel for the tormented spirits, breaking the cycle of suffering. Facing an impossible choice, Jake hesitated. The malevolent force closed in, its presence suffocating. In an act of selfless bravery, Jake embraced the curse, allowing the spirits to consume him. The mansion shuddered as the curse lifted, the malevolent force dissipating into the night. As dawn broke on Christmas morning, Winterhaven awoke to an unfamiliar stillness. The old mansion stood silent and foreboding, but the curse had been laid to rest. The townsfolk, unaware of the night's events, continued their festivities, but the legend of the Morgenstern curse lingered in whispers among the villagers. The once dreaded mansion became a somber reminder of the consequences of tampering with forbidden powers. Every Christmas Eve, a faint melody could be heard, carried by the winter wind through the Blackwood forest, a haunting refrain that served as a warning to those who might be tempted to delve into the dark secrets hidden within the ancient walls of Winterhaven's cursed mansion. Story 4. In the forgotten town of Ravenscroft, where the snowfall was heavy and the nights were long, there existed a chilling tale that lingered in the whispers of the wind. The legend spoke of a forsaken orphanage at the outskirts of the town, abandoned decades ago under mysterious circumstances. This Christmas Eve, as the townspeople gathered for festivities, a group of thrill-seekers decided to uncover the secrets hidden within the decaying walls of the old orphanage. The group, led by Sarah, a spirited young woman with a penchant for the supernatural, made their way through the silent streets of Ravenscroft. The orphanage loomed in the distance, its windows shattered and its facade cloaked in an eerie mist. Undeterred by the tales of hauntings and the warnings of the locals, the group approached the creaking gates and entered the forsaken building. The air inside the orphanage was thick with the scent of mildew, and the floorboards groaned beneath their weight. The group navigated through the darkened corridors, guided only by the glow of their flashlights. As they delved deeper, a sense of unease settled over them, and shadows seemed to dance in the corners of their vision. In the dilapidated common room, they discovered a collection of faded photographs on the walls, images of children who had once called the orphanage home. Their eyes, captured in black and white, bore a haunting emptiness that sent shivers down the spines of the intruders. As the clock struck midnight, a distant sound echoed through the orphanage, an ethereal melody that seemed to resonate from the heart of the building. The group followed the haunting notes, which led them to a forgotten attic, where a music box sat atop a dusty trunk. The music box, untouched by time, played a melancholic tune that echoed through the desolate halls. The air grew colder, and the atmosphere became charged with an otherworldly presence. Whispers, too faint to discern, murmured in the wind as the group realized they had stumbled upon something beyond their understanding. Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness, and the music box's tune warped into a dissonant melody. Figures of shadow emerged from the corners, taking the shape of children who materialized from the long-forgotten memories of the orphanage. Their hollow eyes fixated on the intruders, and a chilling voice spoke through the darkness. "We've been waiting for you." The group, paralyzed with fear, watched as the apparitions reenacted a tragic scene from the orphanage's past, a story of neglect, sorrow, and a Christmas long ago, when the orphans were left to fend for themselves in the biting cold. The leader of the spirits, a spectral girl named Emily, approached Sarah. In a voice laced with sorrow, Emily revealed that the souls of the orphaned children were bound to the orphanage, unable to find peace. The group had unwittingly become part of the spectral reenactment, a ritual that played out every Christmas Eve, seeking resolution for the long-lost children. To break the cycle and release the spirits, Sarah had to confront the tragic past and uncover the truth behind the orphanage's abandonment. Reluctantly, she delved into the memories of the spirits, witnessing the heart-wrenching events that had unfolded on that fateful Christmas night. As Sarah unraveled the mysteries, the spectral children began to fade away, their anguished cries replaced by a bittersweet lullaby. The room, once consumed by darkness, was bathed in a soft, ethereal light as the unresolved souls found solace at last. As dawn broke over Ravenscroft, the abandoned orphanage stood silent, its secrets laid bare. The townspeople, oblivious to the supernatural events that had transpired, continued their Christmas celebrations. But the group of thrill-seekers, forever changed by the encounter, carried the echoes of the orphanage's haunting lullaby in their hearts, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the lingering spirits of Ravenscroft's forgotten children.